I sat at my parents' dining table that Friday evening, staring at the envelope in my lap. Inside were bank statements I found accidentally while helping my father with estate planning paperwork last week. 6 years of wire transfers to Jessica, $473,000. While Grace was dying. While Sarah and I sold our house, our car, maxed out credit cards, held fundraisers. While my parents said we wish we could help, but we are on a fixed income. Tonight, I was going to destroy this family. The pot roast steamed on the table between us. My mother Linda moved around the dining room with practiced grace, serving vegetables and refilling water glasses. My father Robert sat at the head of the table like always, discussing his golf game with the easy confidence of a man who spent 30 years managing other people's money at First National Bank. My sister Jessica sat across from me, her diamond bracelet catching the chandelier light as she gestured enthusiastically about Brandon's tennis lessons at the country club. Sarah squeezed my hand under the table. She knew what was coming. We had talked about this for 3 days. Since I found those statements, she wanted me to wait, to think it through, to consider whether this confrontation would bring us any peace. But I was done waiting. I had waited while Grace suffered. I had waited while we begged and scraped and sold everything we owned. I was done waiting. Jessica was in the middle of describing Chloe's piano recital when I placed the envelope on the table. The conversation died instantly. My mother's serving spoon froze halfway to a plate. My father's hand stopped mid-reach for his wine glass. Jessica's smile flickered like a candle in wind. I opened the envelope slowly, deliberately. The papers inside were organized chronologically. I had spent hours arranging them, highlighting the relevant sections, making sure every number was visible and clear. $8,000 in January 2018. I read the number aloud, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. $12,000 in March. $15,000 in June. Mom, what is this? Jessica started, but I kept reading. $22,000 in September. $18,000 in November. Another $15,000 in December. Ervin, my father said, his bank manager voice emerging. Let us explain. I continued through 2019. The numbers grew larger. $25,000 in February. $30,000 in April. The amounts blurred together as I read. A litany of wealth flowing from my parents' accounts to my sisters. Grace died on March 14th. I looked up from the papers, meeting my father's eyes. That week, you wrote Jessica a check for $22,000. Sarah made a sound beside me, something between a sob and a gasp. It was the first time I had seen her cry since the funeral. She had been so strong through everything, holding me together when I fell apart. Working 3 jobs while managing Grace's care schedule. Never complaining. Never breaking. But now, 6 months after we buried our daughter, she finally broke. This is not the time or place, Jessica said, starting to stand. I pulled out the second folder. Sit down. Something in my voice made her obey. I spread more papers across the tablecloth, covering my mother's carefully arranged place settings. Westbrook Academy tuition is $18,000 per year per child. I had called the school, pretending to be a prospective parent. That is $36,000 annually for Brandon and Chloe. Over 6 years, that is $216,000. I watched the math register on their faces. But you gave Jessica $473,000. I let that number hang in the air. So where did the rest go? The papers I laid out next told the story. Credit card statements, with Jessica listed as an authorized user on my parents' account. Country club membership receipts, $8,000 annually. Rental agreements for a summer home in Cape Cod, $30,000 each summer. Mercedes lease payments, $900 monthly. Private tennis lessons, ski trip invoices from Aspen, receipts from Nordstrom and Saks Fifth Avenue. My forensic accountant was very thorough. I had spent the last of our savings hiring him, but it was worth every penny to see the truth laid bare. Robert tried to speak. We were helping your sister get on her feet. The laugh that came out of me was ugly. Get on her feet? She drives a car worth $70,000. We were selling plasma for grocery money. The room went silent except for Sarah's quiet crying. Let me tell you about getting on our feet. We moved from our 3-bedroom home to a 1-bedroom apartment above a dry cleaner. The smell of chemicals kept Grace awake at night, but it was all we could afford. Sarah worked morning shift at the elementary school, afternoon shift at Target, and night shift doing online tutoring. I worked my accounting job during the day and took night security shifts at the mall on weekends. We slept 4 hours a night. I pulled out Grace's medical bills. The papers were worn from handling, stained with tears and coffee rings from the countless nights we sat at our kitchen table trying to figure out how to pay them. Grace's leukemia treatment was not fully covered by insurance. The bills came to $300,000 over 2 years. We paid what we could. We maxed out 7 credit cards. We took out personal loans at 23% interest. We started a GoFundMe that raised $12,000 from strangers who cared more than my own parents. But there was an experimental treatment in Boston. $80,000. The doctors said it might give her 6 more months, maybe a year. We begged you for help. I looked at my mother. Do you remember what you told us? Linda was crying now, her carefully applied makeup running down her cheeks. You said you wished you could help, but you were on a fixed income. You said Social Security did not go very far. You said you had your own medical expenses to worry about. I threw down another paper. This is from the same week. $15,000 to Jessica for her kitchen renovation. Jessica was white as the tablecloth. Ervin, please. Grace died, asking why she could not have the good medicine. We told her we were saving money for it. We told her to hang on just a little longer. She died believing help was coming. My voice cracked on the last word. Sarah reached for my hand again. Gripping it so tight her nails dug into my palm. The night Grace died, I had $17 in my checking account. We could not afford the funeral home we wanted. We had to choose the cheapest cremation package. They put my daughter's ashes in a plastic box because we could not afford the wooden urn. That same month, I looked at Jessica. You posted photos on Instagram from your vacation in Turks and Caicos. 5-star resort, private beach. You were drinking cocktails while we were picking out our daughter's urn at the budget funeral home. Jessica started to say something, but Linda interrupted, her voice high and desperate. You don't not understand. Sarah spoke for the first time, her voice raw. Then explain it to us. Jessica pushed back from the table, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I need to leave. I stood up, blocking her path to the door. You are not running away this time. My forensic accountant did not just trace the money. I pulled out my phone, opening the email app. He found these two. The first email was dated August 2018, 2 months after Grace's diagnosis. I read it aloud, my voice shaking with barely controlled rage. From Ervin to Robert and Linda. Subject, please help. Mom and Dad, I am writing because I do not know what else to do. Grace's treatment is not fully covered by insurance. We need $20,000 for the next phase. The doctors say without it, her chances drop significantly. I know this is a lot to ask, but I am begging you. We will pay you back. I promise. We will work out a payment plan. Please. I looked up. Do you remember this email? My father nodded slowly, his face gray. I scrolled down. Here is what you sent the next day. From Robert to Ervin. Son, your mother and I wish we could help, but we simply do not have that kind of money. We are living on a fixed income and barely making ends meet ourselves. Have you tried talking to the hospital about a payment plan? Love, Dad. Now let me show you what else happened that day. I pulled up another email. From Jessica to Robert and Linda. Subject, about Ervin's request. Mom and Dad, please do not give him money. Ervin has always been terrible with finances. He will waste it. He probably wants it for a new TV or something. Grace has insurance. She will be fine. Besides, you know how he exaggerates everything. Love, Jess. Jessica lunged for my phone. I stepped back, holding it out of reach. And your response, from Linda to Jessica. You are probably right, sweetheart. We will tell him we cannot afford it. Thank you for the advice. Love you, Mom. The room was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking in the hallway. I scrolled through more emails, reading each one aloud. December 2018. When Grace's condition worsened, and we needed $15,000 for a clinical trial in New York, Jessica's email to my parents. He is being dramatic. Doctors always exaggerate to scare people. Grace probably just has a bad flu. Ervin wants to play victim. You know how he has always been jealous of my success. April 2019, when Grace was in the ICU and we begged for $50,000, promising to pay it back over 10 years. Jessica's response to my parents: absolutely not. If you give him that money, you are choosing his family over mine. Brandon needs braces. Chloe's therapy sessions cost money. The kids need stability. Ervin made his choices, marrying a teacher instead of someone with a real career like Todd. Sarah flinched at that. She had taught second grade for 8 years before Grace got sick. Pouring her heart into those kids, staying late for parent conferences, spending her own money on classroom supplies. She loved teaching. But Jessica had always looked down on it, making little comments about Sarah's sensible clothes and practical car. There were more emails, dozens of them. Each time I reached out to my parents, Jessica was there in the background, poisoning the well, convincing them not to help. Jessica finally found her voice. Those are out of context. I was protecting Mom and Dad from your constant begging. Protecting them. I stepped closer to her, my voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Grace was going to die anyway, according to doctors. That is what you said in your email from March 2019. I read the email again, making sure everyone heard every word. Grace was going to die anyway, according to doctors, so why throw good money after bad? Let nature take its course. Sarah made a sound like a wounded animal and lunged across the table at Jessica. I caught her, holding her back as she screamed. She was going to die. She was 7 years old, and you said let nature take its course. Jessica backed against the wall, her face crumpling. I did not mean it like that. I pulled out my phone again, opening the text messages. Let me show you what else you did. The texts were from Grace's final week. I had to fight to keep my voice steady as I read them. From Ervin to Linda, March 9th. Mom, Grace has days left. The doctor said maybe a week. We need palliative care to keep her comfortable. But insurance only covers basic hospice. There is a specialized team that can manage her pain better. But it costs $5,000. Please, I am begging you, do not let my daughter die in pain. I scrolled to Jessica's response to Linda. Do not respond. He is manipulating you. If you help now, he will expect it forever. You have to draw a line somewhere. And Mom's response to Jessica: you are right, sweetheart. I will turn off my phone. Thank you for keeping me strong. My mother let out a wail, covering her face with her hands. But I was not done. Grace spent her last 3 days in pain we could have prevented. The basic hospice care gave her morphine, but not enough. Not nearly enough, she cried. My 7-year-old daughter cried and begged us to make it stop hurting. Sarah was shaking in my arms, her whole body convulsing with sobs. We told Grace the special medicine was coming. We told her to hold on just a little longer. We lied to our dying daughter because we could not afford to tell her the truth. Do you know what she said the night before she died? I looked at Linda, then at Jessica. She said thank you. She thanked us for trying to get the special medicine. She said she knew we were doing our best, and she was sorry for being so much trouble. The silence that followed was deafening. My father cleared his throat, his voice hoarse. At the funeral, Linda started to say, but I cut her off. At the funeral, which we could barely afford, Linda said to her friend within my earshot, at least Ervin will not need money anymore now. Sarah heard it too. Linda shook her head violently. No, I did not, I would never. Sarah pulled away from me, standing on her own. You said it. I heard you. I was standing right behind you at the reception. You were talking to Margaret from your book club. You said, well, at least now they can start getting their finances in order. One less mouth to feed. Jessica was sliding down the wall, her designer dress bunching up around her. This is not happening. This cannot be happening. The front door opened. Todd, Jessica's husband, walked in carrying his briefcase, loosening his tie. He stopped when he saw the scene, his face confused. What is going on? Sarah turned to him, her face blotchy and tear-stained. Did you know? Know what? That your wife has been getting hundreds of thousands of dollars from her parents. That she sabotaged every attempt we made to get help for Grace. That she let our daughter die so she could have a pool and a Mercedes. Todd looked at Jessica, then at the papers scattered across the table. What is she talking about? Todd moved closer to the table, picking up one of the bank statements. His finger traced the numbers, his expression changing from confusion to disbelief. $473,000. He looked at Jessica. From your parents, over 6 years. Jessica tried to speak, but no words came out. Todd's hands were shaking as he shuffled through more papers. You told me Westbrook Academy gave the kids scholarships. You said that is why tuition was manageable. Jessica found her voice. Todd, let me explain. You told me the country club membership came from my Christmas bonus 3 years ago. That was part of it. My bonus was $6,000. The membership is $8,000 a year. He grabbed more receipts. Cape Cod rental. $30,000 every summer. You told me we saved that money. We did save some. Mercedes lease. $900 a month. You told me you got a deal through your real estate connections. I did get a deal, by having your parents pay for it. Todd's voice was rising. What else have you been lying about? Sarah was still standing, her arms wrapped around herself. I need to tell you something. She looked at me. Something I never told Ervin. I turned to her, confused. During Grace's illness, I went to your parents 6 times without telling you. Her voice was barely a whisper. I was ashamed. I did not want you to feel more helpless than you already did. 6 times. The first time was July 2018, a month after the diagnosis. I brought all the medical bills, the doctor's letters, the treatment plan. I begged them for $30,000. I showed them everything, explained how the insurance worked, what we needed. Linda cried. She hugged me. She said, Sarah, honey, we live on Social Security. We can barely afford our medications. We would help if we could, believe me. Sarah's hands were shaking. I left feeling guilty for asking. I felt terrible for putting them in that position. She pulled out a small journal from her purse. My therapist told me to write things down, to process what I was feeling. I kept track of every visit. October 2018. Grace's hair was falling out from the chemo. She needed expensive anti-nausea medication that insurance would not cover. $5,000. I went back to Robert and Linda. I begged. Robert said, Sarah, I wish we could. We are struggling ourselves. We had to fix the roof last month. New furnace. The month before. I noticed Brandon and Chloe's Disney World photos on their refrigerator from that same month. I did not say anything. January 2019. I brought Grace with me. She looked at me. I thought maybe if they saw her, saw how sick she was, they would help. You brought Grace. My voice cracked. Our daughter. She wanted to see her grandparents. She had not seen them in months because she was too weak to travel. Sarah wiped her eyes. Grace was so pale, so thin. Her little hand in mine felt like bird bones. We sat in their living room. Grace asked them if they could help Mommy and Daddy. She said it so sweetly. Grandma, can you help? Daddy cries at night. When he thinks I am sleeping. Linda was sobbing openly now, her face buried in her hands. Linda cried. She hugged Grace. She said, Grandma wishes she was rich, sweetheart. I wish I could wave a magic wand and make everything better. After Grace went to the bathroom, Robert pulled me aside. He said, Sarah, you need to prepare for the inevitable. Stop throwing good money after bad. Sometimes you have to accept what is coming and make peace with it. My vision blurred with tears. He said that. To your face. About our daughter. Sarah nodded. March 2019. Grace was in the hospital. I was hysterical. I could barely breathe. I went to their house at 8 in the morning, straight from the hospital. I begged for anything. Even $500 for groceries. We had not eaten anything but ramen and peanut butter for 2 weeks. Linda said, Sarah, we just do not have it. Maybe you should start a GoFundMe. I did. Strangers donated $12,000. People I never met cared more than Grace's own grandparents. Todd was reading the journal over Sarah's shoulder, his face pale. May 2019. I brought a spreadsheet. I was organized, professional. I showed them exactly what we needed. $40,000 for an experimental treatment. I had doctor's letters, success rates, everything. Robert looked at my spreadsheet and said, "Sarah, that is false hope. You are prolonging her suffering. Maybe it is time to let her go with dignity. Let nature take its course." There it is again. I looked at my father. Let nature take its course. Jessica did not come up with that phrase on her own. You fed it to her. Robert said nothing. February 2020. Grace's final month. Sarah's voice broke completely. I got on my knees. In their living room, I got on my knees and begged. $20,000 to make Grace comfortable for whatever time she had left. Special hospice care, pain management. Things to make her last days bearable. Linda said, "Sarah, we took out a loan for our bathroom remodel. We are in debt ourselves. We simply cannot help." Sarah looked at Linda with such pain in her eyes. That same week, Jessica posted Instagram photos from a family ski trip to Colorado. 5-star resort. Private ski instructor. I saw Brandon in brand new ski gear that probably cost more than our monthly rent. But there is more. Sarah flipped a page in her journal. During that March visit, that last visit when I begged on my knees, I saw a check on Robert's desk. I could see it from where I was kneeling. It was made out to Jessica for $15,000. I asked about it. Linda picked it up quickly and said it was an old check. They had not sent it yet. They might not send it at all. And did they send it? Todd asked quietly. Sarah pulled out a bank statement. The check cleared 3 days later. Todd turned to Jessica, his face unreadable. You knew Sarah was begging my in-laws for help while our niece was dying. You knew, and you said nothing. Jessica opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I did not know she was visiting them. But you knew they were lying to Ervin about not having money. You knew because you were the one getting it. Todd picked up more papers from the table, reading quickly. These receipts. These are all yours. Cosmetic procedures. $42,000. Botox. Fillers. Breast augmentation. I thought your real estate commissions paid for those. They did. Partially. Home renovation. $115,000. You told me we saved for that for 3 years. We did save. We saved $30,000. I know because I handled our taxes. Todd's voice was deadly calm. Where did the other $85,000 come from? Jessica tried to stand, but her legs gave out. She slid back down the wall. Todd kept reading. Luxury vacations. $68,000. Designer wardrobe. $37,000. Jewelry. $23,000. Country club. Mercedes. All of it. He looked up. You have been living a lie. We have been living a lie. You made me feel like a failure. You said I was not providing enough for the family. You made me see a therapist. He turned to Robert and Linda. She told me you were helping because I was not earning enough. She made me feel inadequate. I have been on antidepressants for 2 years because I thought I was failing my family. Todd's hands clenched into fists. My father died in October 2019. The funeral was in Ohio. Jessica said we could not afford for both of us to fly there. I missed my dad's funeral. I missed saying goodbye to him. I found out later she charged a spa weekend to our credit card that same week. $4,000 while I was grieving my father. Jessica was crying now, makeup streaming down her face. Todd, please. How much of this did my money pay for? Todd looked at the papers. How much of my salary went to fund this lifestyle while you were secretly getting hundreds of thousands from your parents? All of it was for the family. Jessica's voice was desperate. For Brandon and Chloe. Our kids go to a school we cannot afford. They think this is normal, this level of wealth. What happens when the money stops? When your parents finally cut you off, how do I explain to them that everything was a lie? Todd pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. Your real estate sales. You told me you closed 23 properties last year. I did. I am looking at the public records. You closed 8. 8 properties in 12 months. Your commission on those, minus expenses, was about $47,000 before taxes. You brought home maybe $30,000. Where did you tell me you earned? I worked hard. I had expenses. You told me you grossed $90,000. You said business was booming. Todd's laugh was bitter. More lies. Everything is lies. He looked at Grace's medical bills still spread across the table, at the photos of her that Sarah had pulled out. This little girl. He picked up a photo of Grace from her 6th birthday, smiling despite the scarf covering her bald head. She was 7 years old. 7. Todd's voice cracked. Brandon and Chloe's cousin. They barely knew her, because you kept making excuses why we could not visit. You said it was too depressing for the kids. You said Grace's illness was hard on them. It was. No. Todd shook his head. You did not want them to see the difference. You did not want them to see Grace in a 1-bedroom apartment while they lived in our 4-bedroom house with a pool. You did not want Brandon and Chloe asking questions about why we could not help. Sarah spoke again, her voice stronger now. On Grace's 7th birthday, 3 months before she died, we threw a party at our apartment complex common room. We decorated with dollar store streamers. Grace wanted art supplies. We got her a small watercolor set from Target clearance. $14. She was so happy. She painted for hours that day, even though she was exhausted. She looked at Linda and Robert. You did not come. You said you were not feeling well. That same month. Sarah pulled out her phone, showing a Facebook screenshot. Linda posted this. Best day with my beautiful grandchildren. The photo was from Brandon's birthday party at the country club. There was a bouncy castle, a magician, catered food. The cake alone probably cost $500. Linda made a choking sound. You were well enough for that party. Sarah's voice was ice. You just were not well enough for Grace. Jessica pushed herself up from the floor, gripping the wall for support. Her carefully styled hair was a mess, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Fine, you want the truth. Grace was dying anyway. Every doctor said so. The room went completely still. That money would have been wasted. My kids are healthy. They deserved a good life. Why should Brandon and Chloe suffer just because Grace was sick? I felt Sarah's grip on my arm tighten, the only thing keeping me from lunging across the room. You did not just say that. Todd stared at his wife like he had never seen her before. Jessica seemed to realize she had crossed a line, but instead of backing down, she doubled down. I am just being honest. Everyone was tiptoeing around it. Grace had less than a 20% survival rate. The doctors told Ervin and Sarah that. Why pour money into something that was not going to work? I pulled out my 3rd folder, the one I had been saving. Let me show everyone where the money really went. My forensic accountant was very thorough. He did not just track the payments to Jessica. He tracked where Jessica spent every dollar. I laid out a detailed spreadsheet, color-coded and highlighted. Westbrook Academy tuition for both kids over 2 years, $72,000. That leaves $401,000. Let me show you where that went. Cosmetic procedures. I pointed to the highlighted section. $42,000. Breast augmentation in 2019, $18,000. Botox and fillers, regular appointments, $300 every 3 months for 4 years. Lip injections, chemical peels, laser treatments. Todd was reading over my shoulder, his face growing darker. Home renovation, $115,000. New kitchen with custom cabinets and marble countertops, $68,000. Master bathroom with heated floors and a jacuzzi tub, $32,000. Pool installation, $15,000. Luxury vacations, $68,000 total. Europe twice, $18,000 each trip. Caribbean 4 times, $8,000 per trip. Hawaii, $14,000. Designer wardrobe, $37,000. I had receipts from Nordstrom, Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus. Handbags alone, $12,000. Shoes, $8,000. Clothing, $17,000. Jewelry, $23,000. Diamond bracelet, $8,000. That one. I pointed to the one glittering on Jessica's wrist. Pearl necklace. 4,000. Various rings and earrings. 11,000. Mercedes lease and insurance over 2 years. 54,000 total. Country club and social memberships. 31,000. This included the country club, tennis club, yacht club, and some exclusive women's networking group. Miscellaneous luxury spending. 29,000. This covered things like high-end restaurants, spa treatments, personal shopping services, and what appeared to be a personal trainer. I looked up from the spreadsheet. That is where Grace's treatment money went. Into Jessica's face, her house, her vacations, her wardrobe, her car, her social status. Jessica was shaking her head. I deserved those things. I worked hard. I pulled out more documents. Let me tell everyone about that hard work. Jessica's real estate career. I had her sales records, publicly available through the state licensing board. Last year, 8 closings. Total commission before expenses, about 47,000. The year before, 6 closings. The year before that, 7. Your average annual income from real estate over the past 3 years has been approximately $35,000. That is less than Sarah made as a second-grade teacher before she had to quit to take care of Grace. Todd's face was white. You told me you were making 6 figures. I am working my way up. Jessica's voice was defensive. Building a career takes time. You have had 8 years. I looked at her. You became a licensed agent in 2016. In 8 years, you have averaged about 7 sales per year. The top agents in your office do 50, 60, sometimes 70 sales annually. How do you know that? I called your office. Told them I was considering a career in real estate and wanted to know about top performers. Your managing broker was very helpful. Todd sat down heavily in one of the dining chairs. Everything you told me was a lie. I turned to my parents. Did you know about all of this? Did you know what Jessica was spending your money on? Robert cleared his throat. We knew about some of it. My mother nodded. The cosmetic surgery. I helped Jessica choose the doctor. She wanted to feel confident. You helped her choose a plastic surgeon while Grace was in chemotherapy. Linda's face crumpled. When you say it like that, how else should I say it? I leaned forward. While my daughter's hair was falling out, you were helping Jessica pick out breast implants. While Grace was vomiting from chemo, you were at Jessica's house choosing bathroom tiles. While we were selling our car to pay for medication, you were at the country club with Brandon and Chloe, posting photos on Facebook about your beautiful grandchildren. Robert tried to defend. We did not know how bad things were for you. I sent you photos. We sent you medical updates every week. You knew exactly how bad it was. You chose not to see it. Sarah spoke up again, her voice steady now. Tell them about Grace's final birthday. I took a breath, steeling myself. Grace turned 7 on December 4th, 2019. She knew she was dying by then. The doctors had stopped treatment. We were just trying to keep her comfortable. Grace asked for one thing for her birthday. I had to pause, swallowing hard. She wanted to take an art class, a real one, with an actual teacher. She loved to draw and paint. It was the only thing that made her happy during treatment. She would sit in the hospital bed with her little watercolor set, painting flowers and butterflies. There was a children's art studio near the hospital. They offered a special program for kids with serious illnesses. One-on-one instruction, 2 hours a week, all materials included. It cost $60 a week. Sarah took over. We could not afford it. We were spending every dollar on medical costs. But Grace wanted it so badly. She said if she could just learn to paint better, she could make us pictures to remember her by. My voice broke. She was 7 years old and she was already thinking about how we would remember her after she was gone. We told her we were saving up for it. We told her after the holidays, after we caught up on some bills, we would sign her up. She believed us. She said she would wait. She would be patient. She died on March 14th. Sarah's tears were falling freely now. She never got her art lessons. She died thinking she just needed to wait a little longer. I looked at Jessica. That same month, Brandon started private tennis lessons. According to the receipts, they cost $90 per session, twice a week. You could not spare $60 a week, so Grace could learn to paint before she died. Jessica had no response. She just stood there, silent. But wait. I pulled out Jessica's Instagram. There is more. I had printed out posts from Jessica's social media. Photos of her life. Carefully curated, filtered, hashtagged. I laid them out chronologically, alongside Grace's medical timeline. June 2018. Grace's diagnosis. Jessica's post from that month. A photo of her new designer handbag. Treated myself today. I deserve it. Hashtag blessed. Hashtag grateful. September 2018. Grace starts losing her hair. Jessica's post. Photos from a weekend spa retreat. Much needed self-care. Hashtag me time. Hashtag wellness. December 2018. Grace hospitalized for complications. Jessica's post from Christmas. Her family in front of a massive tree, surrounded by expensive gifts. Best Christmas ever. Hashtag family. Hashtag blessed. March 2019. Grace in ICU. Jessica's post from spring break. On a beach in Mexico. Paradise found. Hashtag vacation. Hashtag blessed. Every major milestone of Grace's illness, Jessica was posting about her perfect life. And our parents were liking every post, commenting with heart emojis and proud grandparent messages. Todd was scrolling through his phone now, looking at Jessica's social media with new eyes. You even posted the day after Grace died. A photo of Chloe at her piano recital. Life goes on. That is what you wrote. Life goes on. She was upset. I was trying to focus on something positive. Your niece had just died, and you posted about Chloe's piano recital. I thought it would help. Jessica's voice was desperate now. I thought focusing on the living would be better than dwelling on the dead. The living. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Is that what you call it? I pulled out one more document. This is from the funeral home. The itemized bill for Grace's cremation. The cheapest package they offered. $950. We could barely scrape that together. Do you know what we could not afford? A proper memorial service. A nice urn. The flowers Sarah wanted. A headstone. Grace's ashes sat in a cardboard box for 2 months because we could not afford anything else. We finally bought an urn in May. I had saved up $200 from working overtime. It is simple, plain wood. No engraving because that cost extra. That same month, I looked at Robert and Linda. You gave Jessica $15,000 for outdoor furniture for her pool area. Linda was crying so hard she could barely breathe. My daughter is in a $200 urn while my sister's patio furniture costs 75 times that amount. Do you understand? Can you possibly understand what you have done to us? The room was silent except for Linda's sobbing. Todd stood up. I want a divorce. Jessica's head snapped up. What? I want a divorce. His voice was calm, decided. I cannot be married to someone who would do this. Who would let a child die so she could have breast implants and a pool? Todd, please. I am taking the kids. Todd pulled out his phone. I am calling my lawyer right now. I am moving into a hotel tonight. Brandon and Chloe are coming with me. You cannot. Watch me. He started dialing. And Jessica, my lawyer is going to love hearing about how you defrauded your own husband. How you made me think I was failing my family while you were secretly living off hundreds of thousands of dollars. How you racked up debt buying jewelry and handbags with what you told me was our shared money. This is all going to come out in the divorce. Every lie, every manipulation, every dollar. And when it does, I am going to fight for full custody. I am going to tell the judge exactly what kind of person you are. He left the room, phone to his ear, his voice sharp as he spoke to whoever answered. Jessica sank into a chair, her face in her hands. I was not done. I turned to my parents. You enabled this. Every single day, you chose Jessica over Grace. You chose luxury over life. You chose comfort over compassion. And now you have to live with it. Robert tried one more time. Ervin, we thought we were being fair. Jessica has 2 children. You only had one. The words hung in the air like poison. Had. Sarah's voice was quiet, deadly. We had one. Past tense. Because she died. Because you let her die. Robert seemed to realize what he had said. I did not mean. Yes, you did. I looked at him. That is exactly what you meant. Jessica's 2 healthy children were worth more than my 1 dying child. That is the math you did. That is the equation that let you sleep at night. It was not like that. Then what was it like? Explain it to me. Make me understand how you watched your granddaughter die in pain while you paid for your other grandchildren to have tennis lessons and ski trips. He had no answer. I started gathering the papers, putting them back in folders. I am done here. Wait. Linda reached for me. Please. We can fix this. We will give you money now. Whatever you need. I do not want your money. Not now. Not ever. But we can help. We can make this right. You cannot bring Grace back. That is the only thing that would make this right, and you cannot do it. Please. Linda was begging now. You are our son. We love you. You love Jessica more. That is all that matters. That is all I need to know. Sarah and I walked toward the door. What are you going to do? Jessica asked, her voice small and broken. I stopped, turned back. What am I going to do? I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You will see. Robert stood up, his old authority returning. He straightened his shoulders, became the bank manager again. That is enough. Everyone needs to calm down. The shift was jarring. Minutes ago he had been speechless, and now he was trying to take control of the situation. To manage it like a difficult client meeting. Ervin, you are emotional. You are not thinking clearly. Grace's death traumatized you. His voice was measured, reasonable. You need to take a step back, get some perspective. Maybe see someone professional. Are you seriously trying to tell me I need therapy because I am angry you let my daughter die? That is not what I am saying. Robert moved around the table toward me. I am saying you are grief-stricken. You are looking for someone to blame. It is natural. But you are lashing out at the people who love you most. The people who love me most. I laughed, and it sounded unhinged, even to my own ears. The people who love me most refused to help save my daughter's life. We could not just hand you money. Robert's voice took on a lecturing tone. That would not have been responsible parenting. We had to think about the bigger picture. About all our children. About long-term financial stability. Long-term financial stability. Sarah stepped forward. Grace does not have a long term. She does not have any term. She is dead. That's 1-721. That's 1-720. Chapter 20. Linda spoke up from her seat. We are so sorry about Grace. We truly are. But attacking Jessica, attacking us, this is not healthy. You need to process your grief appropriately. They were doing it. They were actually trying to gaslight us, to make our justified anger seem like irrational grief. Robert continued. If you keep this up, if you keep attacking your family, there will be consequences. We were planning to help you and Sarah get back on your feet. We have been discussing giving you $50,000, but not if you are going to be disrespectful and ungrateful. There it was, the threat, the dangled carrot. Linda nodded eagerly. Yes, we want to help. We have always wanted to help. But you have to meet us halfway. You have to be willing to forgive and move forward. And Robert paused dramatically. We are meeting with our estate lawyer next month. To update our will. You need to think carefully about your relationship with this family, Ervin. Think about your future. They were threatening to cut me out of their will. As if I cared. As if money was what this was about. I looked at them both, these people who raised me, who taught me right from wrong, who were now trying to buy my silence and complicity. You think I want your money now? After everything? Ervin, Robert's voice took on a warning edge. Do not make a decision you will regret. Sarah squeezed my hand, then stepped forward. Let me tell you something. We never wanted handouts. We never wanted gifts or charity. We wanted help when it mattered. When our daughter was dying. When $20,000 could have given her 6 more months. When $50,000 could have given her a chance at a real treatment. We did not want money for a vacation or a new car or a bigger house. We wanted money to save our child's life. And you said no. Not because you did not have it, but because you chose to give it to Jessica instead. Linda tried to interrupt. We did not know. Yes, you did. I pulled out my phone. I told you I was recording this conversation at the beginning. It is legal in this state. One-party consent. But I did not tell you what else I did. I opened my email app, showing them the screen. 3 days ago, after I found those bank statements, I created a document, 37 pages. Bank statements, emails, text messages, photos, medical records, everything. I made a timeline. I showed the money flowing to Jessica with dates. I showed Grace's medical needs with corresponding dates. I put them side by side so anyone could see the choice you made. What did you do with it? Jessica's voice was barely a whisper. I sent it to 63 people. The color drained from Robert's face. Everyone in our extended family. Uncle Thomas, Aunt Patricia, all the cousins. 18 people. I showed them the recipient list. Your friends, Mom and Dad. The couples you play bridge with. Your golf buddies, your book club. 12 couples. 24 people. Linda made a choking sound. Your church. I sent it to Pastor Williams and the entire board of elders. 8 more people. Jessica's real estate office. Your managing broker, Sandra, and your colleagues. That makes 63 total. But I also sent it to the Parent Association at Westbrook Academy. That email went to 142 families. Jessica let out a sound like a dying animal. And your social circle, Jessica. I sent it to 7 of your closest friends. The ones you go to yoga with. The ones you meet for wine. The room was dead silent. My phone has been buzzing all evening. I turned off the sound during dinner, but look. I showed them the screen. 87 missed calls. Over 200 text messages. I opened my voicemail, putting it on speaker. Uncle Thomas's voice filled the room, rough with emotion and rage. Robert, you son of a bitch. You let my goddaughter die. My Grace. I held her at her christening. I was supposed to watch her grow up. And you let her die so Jessica could have a goddamn pool. You are dead to me. You hear me? Dead. Do not ever contact me again. I played another message. It was Aunt Patricia. Linda, I cannot believe what I just read. How could you? How could you watch that baby suffer? I am coming by tomorrow to get the photo album you borrowed, and then I never want to see you again. Message after message, all saying variations of the same thing. Disgust, outrage, disbelief, severance, the church. I scrolled to another email. Pastor Williams called Mom 2 hours before we got here for dinner. He asked her to step down from women's ministry leadership. 3 families requested transfers to different Bible study groups. Several major donors are threatening to leave the church entirely. Linda was hyperventilating now. Jessica, your managing broker Sandra sent you an email at 4 this afternoon. Did you see it? Jessica shook her head, her face gray. I pulled it up. She is calling an emergency meeting tomorrow morning. Apparently, several current clients saw the documentation and requested different agents. 3 of them specifically. Your use of social media to market yourself, showing your luxury lifestyle, has become a liability. Clients are saying they do not trust you to understand their financial situations when you are living like that. One of your friends forwarded me your group chat. I showed Jessica my screen. The one you think is private. Rachel sent it to me. She said she always thought you were fake, but this confirmed it. Let me read some of the messages. From Brittany. Oh my God. I always wondered how Jessica afforded everything. This is disgusting. From Amanda. I am removing my kids from playdates with Brandon and Chloe. I do not want them around that family. From Megan. The country club is already gossiping. Everyone knows. Jessica is going to be radioactive. Jessica was shaking her head, tears streaming. No, 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 no. The Westbrook Academy Parent Association president sent me a personal email. They are having an emergency meeting. Several families are uncomfortable with your presence at school events. Jessica. There is discussion about whether Brandon and Chloe should remain at the school. That is not fair. Jessica's voice was high, panicked. The kids did not do anything wrong. No, they did not. But you did. And unfortunately, they are going to face consequences for your choices. Just like Grace faced consequences for your choices. The doorbell rang. Everyone froze. I walked to the window, looked out. A news van was parked on the street. Channel 7 logo on the side. A reporter and cameraman stood at the door. Robert moved to the door, but I held up my hand. Let me guess. Someone tipped them off about wealthy grandparents who let their grandchild die while funding their other grandchildren's luxury lifestyle. Who? Robert's voice was strained. Who would do that? I opened the door. The reporter, a woman in her 30s with sharp eyes, smiled professionally. Good evening. I am Jennifer Walsh, from Channel 7 News. I am looking for Robert and Linda Thompson. We would like to ask you some questions about your granddaughter Grace and your family's financial decisions. Robert tried to push past me to close the door. No comment. We have no comment. The reporter held up a folder. We have reviewed extensive documentation about wire transfers totaling $473,000 to your daughter Jessica, while your granddaughter Grace was dying of leukemia. We would like to give you an opportunity to tell your side of the story. Please leave. Robert's voice was shaking. This is private property. We will be running the story, with or without your comment, Mr. Thompson. The reporter was calm, professional. We have confirmed the financial records. We have spoken with Grace's medical team, who verified the family's financial struggles. We have interviewed extended family members. We have a very compelling story here. It would be in your best interest to speak with us. Get off my property. Robert slammed the door. Through the window, I could see neighbors coming out onto their porches, watching the news van, filming with their phones. Jennifer Walsh and her cameraman set up on the sidewalk, just off the property. She began speaking to the camera, gesturing toward the house. I could not hear what she was saying, but I could imagine. Jessica was standing frozen in the middle of the room, watching her world collapse in real time. Todd came back into the room, his face hard. My lawyer is on retainer. I am filing papers tomorrow morning. He looked at Jessica. I already called my parents. I am taking Brandon and Chloe to their house tonight. You can see them this weekend if you want, but we are done. You cannot take my kids. Watch me. And Jessica, my lawyer had some interesting things to say about fraud. About how you misrepresented your financial situation to me. About hidden assets. About using marital funds for personal luxury, while lying about our financial status. This divorce is going to get very ugly for you. He walked out. Minutes later, I heard him upstairs, packing. Robert and Linda stood in their living room, surrounded by the wreckage of their choices. Sarah and I walked to the door. Wait. Linda reached for us. Please. We can fix this. We can make donations in Grace's name. We can set up a scholarship fund. We can do something. You cannot bring her back. That is all that would fix this. And you cannot do it. But we are your parents. We love you. You loved Jessica more. You loved money more. You loved your image more. That is what I learned tonight. That is what I have always known. But tonight, it became impossible to deny. What are you going to do? Robert asked, his voice small. I am going to make sure everyone knows what you did. I am going to make sure that every time someone says your name, they remember Grace. They remember the choice you made. They remember that when it mattered most, when a child's life hung in the balance, you chose a pool and a Mercedes. That is cruel, Linda whispered. Grace crying in pain for 3 days because we could not afford proper palliative care. That was cruel. This is just truth. Sarah and I walked out through the garage, avoiding the reporters in front. We could hear Jessica's sobs echoing through the house as we left. In the car, Sarah finally broke down completely, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. I held her while she cried, parked in my parents' driveway, watching the news van pack up, watching neighbors whisper and point. I did not feel victorious. I felt empty. hollow. Grace was still dead. Nothing I did tonight would change that. But at least now, everyone would know. At least, the truth was out. We drove home in silence. The next 3 days were chaos. My phone never stopped ringing. Extended family members calling to express their support or rage, depending on which side of the family they were on. Robert's brother Thomas called me directly. "Ervin, I had no idea. If I had known, if anyone had told me what was happening, I would have helped. I would have given you the money myself." Grace was my goddaughter. I loved that little girl. I believed him. Thomas had always been the good one, the one who actually lived his values instead of just talking about them. But he had more to say. "I co-signed your parents' home equity line of credit 5 years ago. They needed it to replace their roof, or so they said. I am calling the bank tomorrow. I am demanding they refinance without me immediately. If they cannot qualify on their own, they will have to sell the house." He did not need to do that, but I understood. Thomas wanted consequences. He wanted justice. He wanted them to feel something, anything, that might approximate what we had felt. The local news story aired on Wednesday evening. Sarah and I watched it together, holding hands on our couch in our small apartment. Jennifer Walsh stood outside my parents' house, her voice serious and measured. A disturbing story of family betrayal here in our community. 7-year-old Grace Patterson died in March after a 2-year battle with leukemia. Tonight, her family is speaking out about the financial decisions that may have cost Grace her life. The screen showed Grace's photo, the one from her 6th birthday, wearing a princess costume Sarah had bought at a thrift store. Bald from chemo, but smiling so bright it hurt to look at. Grace's parents, Ervin and Sarah Patterson, faced mounting medical bills as they fought to save their daughter. But according to financial records obtained by Channel 7, Grace's grandparents, Robert and Linda Thompson, were simultaneously transferring hundreds of thousands of dollars to Grace's aunt for private school tuition and luxury expenses. They interviewed Sarah. She had agreed to speak, wanting Grace's story told. We begged them for help. Sarah's voice was steady, but her eyes were red. We showed them the bills, the treatment options, the clinical trials. They told us they could not afford to help. They said they were on a fixed income. We believed them. The reporter asked, "What would you want people to know about Grace?" Sarah's face softened. Grace was the sweetest child. Even when she was in pain, even when she was scared, she would thank her nurses. She would try to make us feel better. She worried about us more than herself. She died apologizing for being expensive. The screen cut to an interview with Grace's oncologist, Dr. Helen Martinez. I could not speak about specific financial details, but I can tell you that childhood cancer treatment is devastating financially. Even with insurance, families often face hundreds of thousands in out-of-pocket costs. And there are treatments, clinical trials, supportive care options that insurance does not cover. Cost should never be a factor in a child's care, but unfortunately, it often is. They showed Jessica's house, her Mercedes in the driveway, the pool visible through the fence, the expensive outdoor furniture that cost more than Grace's entire funeral. The Thompsons declined to comment for this story, the reporter said. But the financial records tell a clear story. While one grandchild was dying, another grandchild was living in luxury, and the family that has been torn apart is left wondering if things could have been different. The story went viral. By Thursday morning, it had been picked up by regional news outlets. By Thursday evening, national news had it. By Friday, it was trending on social media. The hashtag Justice for Grace appeared organically. Strangers who had never met my daughter were sharing her story, expressing outrage, demanding accountability. Someone started a GoFundMe. Not for us, but for other families facing similar situations. Help families like Grace's. The goal was $50,000. It raised that in 6 hours. By the end of the week, it had raised $800,000. The organizer contacted me. She was a mother who had lost her own daughter to cancer 3 years earlier. She knew the struggle. She wanted to help others. "We should start a foundation," she said. Use this money to help families with childhood cancer expenses, medical bills, living expenses, funeral costs if needed. Would you and Sarah be willing to be involved? We said yes. What else could we say? Grace's death had to mean something. Jessica's life fell apart quickly. Her managing broker called the emergency meeting. By Friday afternoon, Jessica had lost her real estate license. The state board launched an ethics investigation based on complaints from clients who felt she had misrepresented her financial situation in marketing materials. She was fired from her brokerage. Her social media accounts, once carefully curated showcases of her perfect life, were deleted after the harassment became too much. Todd filed for divorce on Thursday. By Friday, he had temporary custody of Brandon and Chloe. Jessica got supervised weekend visits. The country club revoked her membership. Westbrook Academy suggested that Brandon and Chloe might be more comfortable at a different school. They framed it as concern for the children, but everyone knew the truth. The other parents did not want their kids associated with Jessica's family. My parents' lives imploded even faster. Their church held an emergency board meeting. Linda was asked to step down from all leadership positions. 3 families left the church entirely, citing their inability to worship alongside people who could make such choices. Robert's retirement community was worse. Someone spray-painted child killers on their garage door. Their car was keyed so deeply it needed a full repaint. Notes appeared on their door. Cruel notes, hateful notes, but also heartbreaking notes from people who had lost children and could not understand how anyone could make the choices my parents made. The HOA president knocked on their door Wednesday evening. Mr. Thompson, I need to inform you that several residents have filed formal complaints. While we cannot force you to move, we want you to understand that the environment here has become hostile. For your own safety and comfort, we recommend you consider relocating. They put the house on the market Friday. It sold within a week to a cash buyer who knew about the situation and lowballed them. They lost money on the sale, but had no choice. They could not stay there. Thomas made good on his threat. He demanded they refinance without him. Their credit was not good enough. They had to use the sale proceeds to pay off the home equity line. They moved to a small 2-bedroom apartment in a town 40 minutes away, a place where no one knew them, where they could hide. Extended family cut them off completely. Thomas organized it, creating a family group chat without Robert and Linda. No one is to have contact with them. They made their choice. We make ours. My mother's book club disbanded rather than kick her out. They just stopped meeting entirely. My father's golf buddies stopped returning his calls. They aged 10 years in those first few weeks. I saw photos someone posted online. Robert looked gaunt, hollow. Linda looked broken. Robert had a minor stroke from the stress. Nothing life-threatening, but enough to scare them, enough to make them realize their choices had consequences. 6 months later, things had settled into a new normal. Jessica was working retail, a department store at the mall, selling cosmetics. The same mall where I used to work night security shifts while Grace was sick. The irony was not lost on anyone. She had sold the Mercedes, was driving a 10-year-old Honda. The house was in foreclosure. Todd got it in the divorce. But he could not afford the payments on his own, and did not want it anyway. Too many memories, all of them now tainted. Brandon and Chloe lived with Todd primarily. They saw Jessica every other weekend. The kids were in public school now, struggling to adjust. They had gone from the best of everything to normal, and normal felt like poverty to them. Todd was a good father. He was handling it as well as anyone could. He had started therapy, was working through his own betrayal and grief. He told me once, "I thought I knew my wife. I thought I knew what kind of person she was. Finding out I was wrong about something so fundamental, it shakes everything." Jessica tried to reach out once. She showed up at the Grace's Light Foundation office 3 months after everything exploded. I was there, working on grant applications. Sarah was in a meeting. The receptionist buzzed me. "Jessica Patterson is here to see you." I almost said to turn her away, but something made me go out to the lobby. She looked terrible. Her hair, once professionally styled, was pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup. Clothes from Target, not Nordstrom. She had lost weight, not in a healthy way. Can we talk? Her voice was small. No. Please, I need to say something. You had plenty of chances to say something when Grace was alive. When it mattered. I know. Tears started falling. I know I was terrible. I know I destroyed everything. I just want you to know that I am sorry. I am so sorry. Sorry does not bring her back. I know. She wiped her face with her sleeve. I think about her every day. About what I did. About what I could have done differently. I have nightmares. I see her face. I see her asking for help and I see myself turning away. Good. You should have nightmares. You should never forget. I came here to see if I could volunteer. To help. To do something. No, please. Let me do something good. Let me try to make up for it. You cannot make up for it. There is no making up for letting a child die. There is no redemption arc here, Jessica. You do not get to feel better by volunteering. You do not get to ease your conscience. She broke down completely then, sobbing in the lobby. I destroyed everything. My marriage. My kids' lives. My relationship with my parents. Everything. You destroyed Grace's life. Everything else is just consequences. Sarah came out of her meeting then, heard Jessica crying. She stood in the doorway, watching. Jessica looked up, saw her. Sarah, I am so sorry. Sarah walked over slowly. She stood in front of Jessica, looking down at her. I cannot forgive you. Sarah's voice was quiet but firm. I will never forgive you. But I hope you learn to be a better mother. To Brandon and Chloe. I hope you learn to value what matters. Cry it. But I hope you learn. I hope Grace's death teaches you something. Jessica nodded, still crying. Now leave, and do not come back here. This place is for helping people. You are beyond help. Jessica left. I never saw her again. My parents tried to reach out several times. Letters mostly. They could not call because I had blocked their numbers. The letters were desperate, begging for forgiveness, offering money, suggesting family therapy, making excuses. One letter from my mother. We truly did not understand how bad things were. We thought the doctors were exaggerating. We thought you would figure something out. We never imagined Grace would actually die. Another letter from my father. We made mistakes. We admit that. But we are still your parents. We still love you. Family is supposed to forgive. Family is supposed to stay together. I responded once, through my lawyer. A formal letter. Robert and Linda Thompson. You chose Jessica. You made that choice every day for 2 years. Every time you wrote her a check, every time you turned down our requests for help, every time you attended Brandon's birthday party instead of Grace's, you made a choice. You chose luxury over life. You chose comfort over compassion. You chose your image over your granddaughter. I do not forgive you. Sarah does not forgive you. Grace cannot forgive you because she is dead. Do not contact us again. We have nothing to say to you. Ervin Patterson. They stopped writing after that. The Grace's Light Foundation grew quickly. The initial $800,000 in donations became the seed money. We applied for nonprofit status. Recruited a board of directors. Hired staff. Sarah went back to school, getting her counseling degree. She wanted to help families navigate the trauma of childhood illness, to provide emotional support alongside financial support. I became the public face of the foundation, speaking at fundraising events, sharing Grace's story, advocating for changes to healthcare policy. We helped 37 families in the first 6 months, covered treatment costs, paid rent and utilities, bought groceries, covered funeral expenses when treatments failed. Every family we helped in Grace's name. Every child who got treatment they otherwise could not afford. Every family who did not have to choose between medicine and rent. Every funeral we paid for so parents did not have to scrape together money while grieving. All of it was Grace's legacy. A state representative contacted us about legislation. Grace's Law, she called it. A bill that would create a state emergency fund for families facing catastrophic childhood illness costs. It would not cover everything, but it would help. We testified at hearings, shared our story. showed Grace's photos, made legislators look at what their failure to act cost families like ours. The bill passed. Grace's law became real. Not enough, never enough, but something. Something that might save other families from our fate. National childhood cancer organizations reached out. They wanted me to speak at their events, to share Grace's story, to help raise awareness and funds. I said yes to all of it. I spoke at galas and fundraisers. I did interviews. I shared photos of Grace, told stories about her kindness and courage, made sure people understood what the system had cost us. In 18 months, our advocacy helped raise over $3 million for childhood cancer, research, and family support services. Grace's story touched people. It made them angry. It made them want to do better. It made them donate, volunteer, advocate. My daughter lived 7 years, but her impact was growing every day, reaching further than she ever could have in life. Sarah and I bought a small house. Nothing fancy, just a simple 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. Far from my parents, far from Jessica, far from all the painful memories. We turned one bedroom into an office for foundation work. Grace's watercolor paintings hung on every wall. The cheap set we bought her for her birthday, the paintings she made in those final months, all framed and displayed. She was present in every grant we wrote, every family we helped, every speech we gave. We started trying to conceive. Not to replace Grace, never to replace her, but because she would have wanted siblings. Because she used to talk about being a big sister someday. Because life had to go on, even though part of us died with her. It was hard. The grief counseling helped, but some wounds never fully heal. We just learned to carry them better. Our marriage was stronger than ever. Trauma had bonded us instead of breaking us. We had seen each other at our worst, and loved each other anyway. The anniversary of Grace's death fell on a Saturday. Sarah and I drove to the cemetery early, before anyone else would be there. Her grave was simple. A flat marker, granite, with her name and dates and a single line. Loved beyond measure. We had finally been able to afford something proper. The foundation had given us the means, ironically. Helping others had helped us heal enough to finally give Grace the memorial she deserved. I traced her name with my fingers, the granite cold under my hand. I brought you something, I told her, like she could hear. Like maybe she could. I pulled out a watercolor painting. One of the families we helped, their daughter had beaten her cancer. She was in remission, thriving. She had painted this for Grace, as a thank you. A field of wildflowers under a blue sky, butterflies dancing above the blooms. Her mom said she wanted Grace to have it. Said Grace saved her life, because without the foundation, without the help we gave them, they would not have been able to afford her treatment. Sarah knelt beside the grave, arranging fresh flowers. Sunflowers, Grace's favorite. 16 families this month, she said softly. 16 kids who got help because of you, baby girl. 16 families who did not have to go through what we went through. We sat there for a while, silent. The cemetery was peaceful. Birds, singing in the trees, morning sun, warming the grass. I have been thinking a lot about what I learned this year, I said finally. Sarah squeezed my hand, listening. I learned that blood does not mean loyalty. Family is who shows up when it matters. Uncle Thomas showed up. Our friends showed up. Strangers on the internet showed up. The people who were supposed to love us most did not. I learned that truth always finds the light. My parents and Jessica kept secrets for years, but secrets destroy from within. The truth came out, like it always does, and when it did, it burned everything down. I learned that justice is not always legal. Sometimes it is just truth spoken loudly enough. I could not sue them. The law was not on my side. But the court of public opinion delivered a verdict. And sometimes that is enough. Sarah added, I learned that Grace's life, though short, had more meaning than all of Jessica's luxury or your parents' comfort. Grace was kind. She was brave. She cared about others even when she was suffering. That matters more than money or status or image. I learned that standing up for what is right costs everything, I continued. But staying silent costs your soul. I lost my parents, my sister, my whole family of origin. But I kept my integrity. I kept my truth, and I can live with that. Sarah leaned her head on my shoulder. I learned that love is not about words or promises. It is about choices. Your parents said they loved you. Jessica said she loved us. But when it mattered, they chose themselves. We chose Grace. We chose each other. That is what love actually looks like. We stayed until the sun was high, talking to Grace, telling her about the foundation, about the kids we were helping, about how her story was changing lives. That night, we attended the Grace's Light Foundation annual gala. Our second one. It had grown since the first. 500 people in attendance, all dressed up, all there to honor Grace and help other kids like her. The ballroom was decorated with butterflies, Grace's favorite. Photos of her at different ages played on screens around the room. Grace as a baby. Grace on her first day of kindergarten. Grace in her princess costume. Grace painting at the hospital, bald and pale, but smiling. I gave the keynote speech. I had done this before, but it never got easier. Standing in front of hundreds of people, sharing the worst moments of my life, asking them to care about a little girl they never met. My daughter taught me more in 7 years than most people learn in a lifetime. The room was silent, attentive. She taught me about courage, about facing pain with a smile, about getting up every day and trying again, even when your body is failing and everything hurts. She taught me about love, real love, the kind that does not keep score. Grace never complained about her treatment. She never blamed anyone for her illness. She thanked her nurses, even when they had to hurt her to help her. She worried about us more than herself. She taught me about forgiveness, not the kind where you pretend things are okay when they are not, but the kind where you acknowledge the hurt and choose not to let it consume you. Grace forgave her body for betraying her. She forgave the universe for dealing her a bad hand. She never asked why me. She just lived every day she had, as fully as she could. And when she left us, she taught me about purpose. I paused, looking around the room, at the faces watching me, many of them crying. My parents thought money spent on Grace was wasted because she died. They chose to fund luxury for my sister, instead of treatment for my daughter. They thought they were being practical, smart, responsible, but Grace's impact grows every day. This foundation is her legacy. Every child we help in her name. Every family that does not have to choose between treatment and rent, between medicine and food, they are helped because of Grace. That is not waste, that is immortality. The room erupted in applause. People were standing, crying, clapping. The energy in the room was electric. Tonight, we are here to raise money for childhood cancer research and family support. Every dollar you donate goes directly to helping kids like Grace, to making sure that no family has to face what we faced, to making sure that money is never the reason a child does not get treatment. Grace lived 7 years. In those 7 years, she touched everyone who knew her. She was kind, brave, loving, and strong. She deserved to live. She deserved every chance. And even though we could not save her, we can save others in her name. The auction that night raised $1.2 million, more than we had dared hope for. Enough to help hundreds of families. Enough to fund research trials. Enough to make a real difference. After my speech, after the auction, after the formal program ended and people mingled with drinks and dessert, a man approached me. He was in his 40s, well-dressed, carrying a glass of wine. Mr. Patterson. I am sorry to interrupt. My name is Todd Patterson. I think we are related by marriage. We're related. Jessica's ex-husband. I had not seen him since that night at my parents' house. I just wanted to say. He paused, struggling. I wanted to apologize. I did not know what Jessica was doing. I did not know about the money, or the lies, or any of it. If I had known, I would have stopped it. I would have helped. I believe you. Brandon and Chloe are here tonight. He gestured across the room to where 2 kids stood with an older couple. They wanted to come. They wanted to meet their cousin. They wanted to meet their cousin. Chloe. Chloe. He's 76. Even though they never got to know her in life, They feel connected to her through the foundation. The boy, Brandon, was 12 now. The girl, Chloe, was 14. They looked nervous, holding programs with Grace's photo on the cover. "Can they meet you and Sarah?" Todd asked. "I will understand if you say no." I looked at Sarah. She nodded. We walked over together. The kids looked up, uncertain. Brandon spoke first. "Uncle Ervin." He stumbled over the title, unsure if he had the right to use it. "I am sorry about Grace. I wish I had known her." I knelt down so I was at his eye level. "Me too, buddy. She would have liked you." Chloe held out a drawing. "I made this for her." It was a butterfly, carefully colored, with Grace's name written underneath in neat letters. "It is beautiful." Sarah took it, tears in her eyes. "Thank you." "Mom was wrong," Chloe said quietly. "What she did was wrong. I just wanted you to know that Brandon and I did not know. We did not understand. And now that we do, we are really sorry. You two did not do anything wrong." I looked at both of them. "None of this is your fault. You were kids. You did not make any of those choices. Dad says we should learn from this," Brandon said. "That we should understand what really matters. That money and stuff is not as important as people." Your dad is right. "We have been volunteering," Chloe added. "At a children's hospital. We read to kids during their treatment. Dad said Grace would have liked that. She would have loved that." Todd put his hands on his kids' shoulders. "I have been teaching them about Grace, about who she was, what she went through. They know the truth now. All of it. I thought they deserved to understand." "Thank you," Sarah said, "for raising them right, for teaching them." After they left, Sarah leaned against me. "Those kids are innocent. They deserve a chance to be better than their mother." I agreed. Brandon and Chloe could not help what Jessica did, but they could choose what kind of people they became. And it looked like Todd was making sure they made good choices. The gala wound down around 11. People left with programs, photos of Grace, information about the foundation. Many made additional pledges beyond the auction, promising monthly donations, volunteering their time. Sarah and I drove home in comfortable silence. The kind of quiet that comes from being with someone who knows you completely, who has been through the worst with you, and stayed. At home, we sat in Grace's office, surrounded by her paintings. Sarah pulled up the foundation's website, showing me the updates. We have helped 62 families so far. 62 kids who got treatment they otherwise could not afford. 3 of them are now in remission. 3 lives saved. Because of Grace. Because of Grace, Sarah agreed. I thought about my parents, about Jessica, about where they were now. Living in obscurity, carrying their shame, isolated from everyone they once knew. I did not feel good about their suffering. But I did not feel bad about it either. They had made choices. They were living with consequences. That was justice, of a sort. I thought about Jessica working retail, struggling to rebuild a relationship with her kids, facing the reality that she had destroyed her life for things that did not matter. I thought about my parents in their small apartment, cut off from family, marked by their community as the people who let their grandchild die. But mostly, I thought about Grace, about her smile, her courage, her kindness, about how she faced death with more grace than most people face life. And I thought about how her story was still being told, how kids were being saved in her name, how families were being helped because strangers heard what happened to her and decided to do better. Grace's death was preventable. That truth would always hurt. But her legacy was undeniable. She had changed more lives in death than most people change in a lifetime. Sarah and I sat together, holding hands, looking at Grace's paintings. Tomorrow, we would wake up and do it again. Help another family. Tell Grace's story to another audience. Raise more money. Save more kids. Make sure her death meant something. It was not the life we had planned. We had planned to watch Grace grow up, graduate, fall in love, have her own family. We had planned to be grandparents someday, to tell stories about when Grace was little. But this was the life we had, and we were making it count. For Grace. Always for Grace. Before I close, I want to ask you something. Have you ever faced a moment when family betrayed you? When the people who were supposed to love you Most chose something else instead. How did you handle it? Did you confront them or walk away? Did you find a way to forgive, or did you cut them off completely? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If Grace's story touched you, if you believe families deserve support during childhood cancer treatment, please consider hitting the like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss a story about overcoming betrayal and finding purpose in pain. And if you can, consider donating to childhood cancer research or family support organizations in your area. Every dollar helps. Every donation saves lives. Thank you for listening to Grace's story. Thank you for caring about a little girl you never met. Thank you for believing that truth matters, that justice matters, that speaking up against wrong is worth the cost. I hope you find peace in your own life. I hope when you face hard choices, you choose what matters over what is easy. I hope you love the people in your life while you can, as much as you can, because tomorrow is never guaranteed. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember Grace.